Hey everybody, welcome to the Head Startup. On today's video, I want to talk to you about the WashSale Rule that applies to trading stocks. You also might know it as the 4-week trading rule. This rule was created to discourage people from selling their stocks at a loss to claim a tax credit in certain situations where they had bought and sold a stock within a period of 4 weeks. This rule can vary slightly from country to country. On today's video, I'm just going to focus on the Irish specific rules. I will go through some specific examples so you can get your head around it and you know exactly what to do in order to avoid getting caught out by this rule. This rule is very easy to understand, but if you don't know about it, it's very easy to get caught out and end up paying a lot more tax than you expected. Before I move on and talk about some specific examples relating to the WashSale Rule, I think it's important that we're all on the same page and we all understand how to calculate your profits on your stocks correctly. So I'm just going to show you a brief little example of how you actually correctly calculate your profits on stocks. This method is the FIFO method and it stands for first in, first out. So let's have a look at this now. Here is the FIFO example. So imagine here you were buying some Apple shares. So in January you decided you wanted to buy 2 shares and at that time the price was 85, so it cost you €170. And then in March you bought another 2 shares and at that time the price was 90, so that cost you €180. And then in May you decided you'd buy another 6. So at that time the price was 100, so the total cost for you there was 600 in May. But then it came to July and you decided, okay, I just want to sell 4 of my shares in Apple because the price has now gone up to 120. So how do you actually calculate your profit in that situation? So under the FIFO rule, you need to sell your oldest stocks first. So we can see it here clearly in my profit calculation that I color coded here. So we are selling 4 shares, so that means we need to sell our first 4 shares that we bought under the FIFO rule. So it's first in, first out. So that means you sell your first 4 shares that you bought. So the 4 shares that we bought first were the 2 we bought in January and the 2 we bought in March. So that will be our cost there. So it's the 170 plus the 180 is our cost for our profit calculation. And then our sales proceeds was the 4 at 120, which is 480. So we made a profit of €130 on the sale of our 4 Apple shares. So I hope that makes sense for everybody, and as you can see, it only gets complicated whenever you buy shares at multiple different times and sell at different times also. So if you're just buying, say, at one point in the year and then you're selling at a different point to your whole position, it's very simple to calculate, obviously. So this FIFO method applies in all situations except where a wash sale has occurred. Right, so we're ready now to move on to the specific wash sale rules in Ireland. So now I'm going to just show you a brief extract from the Revenue website and what they actually say about it. Shares sold within 4 weeks of acquisition. Shares bought and sold within a 4-week period cannot be offset against other gains. You can only deduct the loss from the gain made on a subsequent disposal of the same class of shares acquired within the 4 weeks. So how does this actually work in practice? I'm going to take you through 3 different examples now so you can understand it clearly. I'm going to go through these 3 different scenarios so you can see exactly where the WashSale rule actually kicks in. So let's start off with situation number 1. So in this situation, you had bought shares on the 1st of April, you bought 2 shares at a price of 100 and it cost you 200, and then 2 weeks later on the 14th of April, you decided to sell those 2 shares at a profit. So the price at that point was 120, so you made a profit overall of 40. There are no issues with this from a tax point of view if you buy and sell your stocks within a short space of time and you actually make a profit. So the usual tax rules apply, the 33% capital gains tax, and you also have your exemption to go against it of 1270 against the gains. So situation 2 is slightly different. So on the 1st of April, you actually bought the 2 shares again at the price of 100. But then 2 weeks later, on the 14th of April, you sold these 2 shares. The price had actually dropped to 80, so you actually made a loss of 40 in this case. Because the sale of these stocks at a loss happened within a month, this is actually a wash sale. This loss cannot be offset against any other gains that you might have in your portfolio. So for example, if you sold some other shares at a massive profit, you won't be able to offset this €40 loss against that profit to try and reduce your tax. But if this person had actually waited until May, until they sold these shares, then in this situation, they actually would have been able to do this. They would have been able to offset that loss against other gains. So timing really is important to avoid this wash sale rule. So here is a slightly different scenario again. So the first part of it is pretty much the same as situation 2. We bought some shares on the 1st of April at 100 and we sold them. Then 2 weeks later, we sold them at a loss of 40, the same as situation 2. but on the 21st of April, we decided we want to buy the shares again at the price of 90. So in this situation, if you ever sell these 4 shares that you bought on the 21st of April in the future at any time for a profit, in this situation, you will actually be able to offset that loss of €40 that you made on selling your first 2 shares against any future profits that you make on the 4 shares here. You won't be able to offset this 40 against any other stocks that you own. It's just on these 4 shares that you subsequently bought, again within a 4-week period of when you had sold your original 2 shares here. Another question that you might have is, does this actually apply to cryptocurrencies also? Well, from my research, I can see in the US that it does not apply to cryptocurrencies. It's just solely to do with shares and securities. And there is no guidance otherwise on the revenue website to suggest that it applies to anything other than stocks. So I think we're safe to say that it doesn't actually apply to cryptocurrencies at all. So I hope this video cleared up any questions that you might have on this area. But if you do have any more questions, please drop it in the comments there and hopefully I'll be able to resolve it for you. So thanks for watching, and as my favorite YouTuber says, tell your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man about the channel, and don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to my channel for more content like this in the future.